Welcome, League of Legends fans, to another episode of the No FFs Podcast, a podcast where we hit it hard, we hit it fast, and we get you caught up with League Esports in no time. Today, this is a special playoff episode of the No FFs Podcast. We've been off the air for a little bit, and I will tell you why, but we will be covering the TSM C9 series. It was the best series that we saw in either LEC or LCS last weekend, and it really sets up for what we're going to get out of the LCS final on Saturday. This episode is airing Saturday. You will likely be preparing or hyping up for that event, TL versus TSM. I wanted to see how TSM got there because I picked C9 3-1, and I thought C9 was just a bad matchup for TSM. TSM did some good things, and we saw why they were a bad matchup and how TSM came back. Real quick, I am your host as always, Zing Lee. You can follow me on Twitter at Zing the Lee. I write for Esports, and I'm pumping out a ton of league content in support of these playoffs, both in the East and the West. So we're doing some LCK content. Griffin versus SKT. By the time this episode airs, you will know the winner. So really exciting stuff. Follow the podcast at No FFs Pod. That's NOFFS Pod. And the reason that I've been off the air for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, is that Smite Steel is back. So Aaron McCunis and we both used to write for Dot. We had a podcast for over a year called The Recall. The Recall is now back. We are Smite Steel. We're dropping weekly episodes on Saturdays. That'll be your all inclusive feed into what's going on in League of Legends. So the game, the meta, skins, this is an esports show, but we'll talk about it all on Smite Steel. So give us a follow. The Twitter handle is Smite Steel Pod, and we're on iTunes now officially. We're in Spotify. We're getting into Google Play any minute now. So follow the podcast. Show us tell us what you want to hear. Give some feedback. Love for you to get engaged on this new podcast. Without ado, let's get into this series. Game 1 was the Sona Taric game. C9 picked red side. We'll get into that, why they did that a little bit later on. But they had side selection. They picked red side. And I just want to look at these drafts, what TSM responded to the Sona Taric with. So they see that Sona Taric come out really early, and they return with Gragas, Akali. And when I saw this, I actually thought this might be a support Gragas. The reason is Gragas as a jungler provides very little early presence. He's basically useless unless the lane is so perfectly set up for a gank that you can't miss it. He just doesn't provide any skirmishing priority, doesn't provide jungle control. He doesn't set up the map in a way that you can really win bot against these two. And you need to win bot because these two are the two of the hardest scaling champions in the entire game. Controlling Baron against a Sona Taric is nigh impossible because they run in with the stuns, they run in with the heals, and once you dash on top of them, Taric pops the invulnerability. So I really didn't like the Gragas jungle pick. I thought we might see him go support, and instead they returned with Vayne Lulu. And they actually did things with Vayne Lulu. Sven got a 2v2 kill where Sneaky went too close to the wall and got pinned against the wall. But we just saw how useless the Vayne Lulu was as the game went on. They just weren't able to do anything about the bot lane. Jumping ahead to 9 minutes and 55 seconds in the game. So you see the scoreline. Broken Blade up on Licorice. Broken Blade had a phenomenal series. Can't say enough about how well he played that lane out against the all LCS top laner in Licorice. And he got a solo kill. We talked about Sven getting a 2v2 kill, but one of the reasons I thought C9 had to step up in this matchup was Sven Skaren specifically. His ability to control jungle against a guy in Acadian who's never been to the playoffs before tends to fall off as the game goes longer. I just don't know if I trusted him. I know I didn't trust him. And you just look at Sven's response to the things that Acadian wants to do. Acadian, almost the whole series, had a real tunnel on mid lane. He really wanted to give Bjergsen that edge. It's something that Bjergsen's enjoyed almost entire career, usually from someone like Sven. And C9 just read it. They read it like a book. They were there constantly. I mentioned this earlier. It almost looked like, Acadian had his brain turned off at certain points, and he just kept going mid. It's all this action in the mid lane, and again, it's the TSM members that go down. Sven is there. Licorice is there. Hecarim is ahead. Hecarim was a phenomenal... I wondered how well that would go in the jungle. He's usually a top laner now, but Sven piloted the Hecarim really well. C9 basically snowballed this into an unwinnable or unlosable situation, and that was game over to C9. Second game, TSM actually picked red side in this, and C9 went with a team fight comp where they have GP, Morgana. This is interesting. They picked Rek'Sai for Svenskeren. We'll come back to this pick. Rek'Sai is really strong in the jungle right now. He's a very good early dueler, can control a lot of things with his tunnels. TSM actually had priority on this because they were able to get some mid pressure, and the Morgana isn't able to duel the Corki early, and they also rotated Broken Blade down from top lane. So they were able to control this river, and this is just unfortunate. Svenskeren's out, and Niski just tosses the Tormented Soil on top of the Drake. And this is just unfortunate, right? This is just... How does the Morg W steal that? And again, Acadian... I don't know, man. Never used Smite. Had Smite, didn't use it. Got it stolen by Niski. Unfortunate for him, but kind of a harbinger of the way this game would go for TSM. We're going to skip ahead to 8 minutes in the lead in the game. And this is another example of Svenskeren just running the show. He's going bot where he's got Ash Arrow and kill pressure. He's able to get the kill, diving under turret, gets out. And normally you think, okay, well now Acadian has his run of topside, right? We have an ability to get that second blue of TSM. We're going to go there. No. Svenskeren is just running things. He runs to the TSM blue. Again, I don't know what Acadian is doing right now. They don't react. There's no top lane gank. GP has oranges. He's coming to turret. Unless you dive him under turret against the GP ult, nothing is going to happen here. Svenskeren gets away with a TSM blue. Runs to Raptors. I would have actually liked for Svenskeren just to run top immediately, but has time to stop at Raptors, make a pit stop, and now we have a 3v3 at the C9 blue, and Svenskeren wins that Smite fight. And this is just Svenskeren running the show, knowing where he needs to be on the map. And then the game was really over around the second Drake at 13 minutes, just over 13 minutes in the game. The TSM try this again where they rotate Broken Blade down, and they have a wave in the middle. This wave isn't going anywhere top lane. The bot lane wave isn't going anywhere either. And again, C9 have a team fight comp. When TSM can get there faster with the movement speed on Kennen or the movement speed on Corki, when they can get there faster, they have an advantage. But in a 5v5, I favor C9, and I don't know what they're doing around this Drake. I mean, they don't have vision control of the area. C9 is free just to walk up. Kennen is zoned out. I mean, it's a 1v1 versus Gangplank. They try to flash in. Kennen doesn't catch anyone with the Kennen ult. And again, the superior team fight comp won. This is a disaster for TSM. They get the Drake as well, and this game was over. Game 3. This is when the series really started turning. I thought Cloud9 should have won this game. I thought this should have been a clean sweep. If you watched Papa Smithy's review, we're both surprised that C9 actually ended up losing this somehow. We're going to go ahead to 10 minutes in the game, and C9 at this point have bot side priority. And they have, look at 1, 2, 3, 4 control wards in the bot side river. So there's nothing that we can do about the C9 bot lane, especially with Ezreal just going even with Jinx, right? Like, Sneaky played that lane super well. So what TSM is going to do is they're going to say, we have Jace and we have Akali. If we don't get these two out into side lanes, we're going to lose. We're going to lose to the Jinx. We're going to lose to the Zillion. And Svenskeren just took Mountain Drake. So he took the first Drake of the game. And this was late. They should have done this earlier. But then he's not in position, and TSM are able to trade the Drake for the Rift Herald because they know we need to get turret down. We need to get plate leads on these guys. If we do not bring down turrets fast, they will outscale us. That was a good point of awareness from Bjergsen and Acadian. And one of TSM's strengths as they came back through the last half of the split is that they would make good strategic decisions. I like this also because they finally realized we cannot just keep going mid against Svenskeren. Svenskeren is better than Acadian. Let's trade. And that's one thing that to me signals when a team has reached another level, when they're comfortable saying, we can't win every single matchup that we want. When in the matchups that are bad for us, let's trade. Let's go find something on the other side of the map, which they did here, and it happened to be a more important objective for their overall team strategy. Now, this is the Bjergsen pop-off game. He saved the game on Akali, but C9 actually had a tremendous lead. I mean, you go forward to 18 minutes. I mean, TSM has a kill on an Infernal, but again, the Jinx, importantly, is even with the Ezreal. You go forward to 25 minutes. Again, they still have a kill lead. They have a 4k gold lead and double Infernal. That's actually important. But the Jinx is still like relatively even with the Ezreal. She's on 2 items, about to build her 3rd. This is setting up really well for C9. They have some vision control issues. And that we're going to get into some of that later on when we see what happens to them in this game. But from a red side team that, face some tough lanes in the Jinx and the Gangplank, they've actually done really well. The red side is something I want to talk about because look at the TSM control over. They've got a control ward on the back of blue. They've got a control ward in the bot side river. They've got 2 wards in the C9 red side jungle, top side jungle. And they just have superior vision control this whole time. And that's especially dangerous against or as C9 for a red side team. I don't know, especially after winning game 2, why they went back to red side for game 3. You look at the regular split. So red side was actually better on average for the LCS teams this split, mostly because of your ability to force them into bad blind picks. Now, it's not that big of a deal against TSM when they're giving up Jace and Akali. 2 picks, they're clearly, even back to game 1, clearly comfortable picking very early and showing those cards. And I just don't know because C9's red side performance isn't that great. I mean, they've been blue side for the majority of their wins this split. And so I'm not sure why they thought they wanted to be red side for this one. But again, they played this out through 25, 30 minutes to a pretty even game state. At 27 minutes, again, I thought C9 had this. C9 sees Akali in the side lane. They have Akali matched up against Gangplank. Akali is TSM's strongest player. Gangplank is not C9's strongest player. I mean, obviously the Jinx, and then the Zillion also provides more utility in a 4v4 scenario. And this is exactly what C9 want. I don't know why TSM's walking up for this. They have a mid turret here. They're not going to actually apply pressure. If the Akali dies, she dies. Like, there's no reason for them to walk up here. She's got wards to escape. She's got a path to escape. They walk up. They get chunked out by the Jinx rockets. And this is C9 Baron. Again, how do they lose this? They can't defend against the Baron. One sneaky backs. They come back. They get the Infernal. They get the Baron. This is, again, setting up really well for C9, but then it all goes wrong. They get a top tier 2 turret, does nothing for them, and then the fateful Bjergsen pop-off play in the bot lane. The one thing I want to notice is, so C9's got Baron buff. They got all 5 members grouped up here in the bot lane, and we're watching the replay, but we're going to go to 30 minutes in the game. So they take down bot tier 1. Bjergsen is TPing behind them. They don't see that, but this is still fine for them. They walk up Smoothie. This is very similar to that mid lane play where they just were able to DPS down Smoothie through Alistar ult with the Jinx rockets. Again, Jinx, she got to this state in the game where she was a really big problem for TSM. And now they see Bjergsen, but they don't react to him. Nobody pings him because they're looking at the rest of TSM, which is a forgivable mistake, right? Like, this is not something that you like to see them necessarily make against someone like Akali, Assassin Akali, but this is a forgivable mistake because you're expecting them to defend. And what I want to point out here is, I'm going to slow this down, is I don't know what the shot call is from C9. They should just keep going on Smoothie. They have Gangplank coming down from behind red buff. Smoothie is basically useless at this point. Acadian is a burst. He's building AP Gragas. He is basically, he can be one shot almost. To me, all you do is Sven either EQs in or flashes in on Smoothie. They kill him, or Sven. Sven's by himself. And he can distort out, and he's got flash and E. So I actually wouldn't necessarily go on Sven because they can't layer, and I don't think they can layer enough damage on Sven to kill him instantly. But you can certainly jump on Acadian. You would definitely kill him. You can certainly kill the the Alistar, and then you've got Broken Blade who can be firing over this wall, but once he uses the empowered shock blast, he doesn't actually represent that much, because you can create a zone with double bombs here, and then Bjergsen is forced to run even farther. So, but they get spooked, right? So the Ezreal ult comes out, it takes half of Niski's health bar, and then the Gragas ult comes out, and it takes even more of Niski's health bar, and Sneaky's down to half, and they're all pinned against the wall. And this is unfortunate because they layer the Zill ult along with the Tahm Kench Devour. It's tough to execute Zilean. But again, just go on the weak TSM members. You got GP coming down. By now, they have to know the Akali's behind them, because now they're looking to kite back. So look at what happens. Svenskeren and Niski are kiting back. Licorice is still running forward to where he dropped the GP ult here. Actually in a very, very good location. Zeyzal and Sneaky are going down on Broken Blade, who's underneath the turret. You cannot beat the Jace like this, right? He's just going to evolve into his hammer and knock you away. I just don't know what's going on. Again, just run towards the GP ult. Instead, they go this is really impressive. They go 3 different directions. These 2 idiots are over here. This idiot is up here. And these 2 idiots are doing God knows what down here. They can't take the turret. They can't kill the Jace. Even if they went hard and all in the Jace, somehow Alistar lives, somehow Gragas lives, and Bjergsen is just popping off. By this time, why are you even running? There's nothing for them to do. And this is just a team fight disaster from a C9 team that you're used to not making these type of team fight errors, front to back team fighting. Just go hard on them. But again, the other thing I want to look at is look at the Bjergsen just dropped this, but he had a TP ward here. They've got wards all through here. C9 doesn't actually have material control. They had this control for the top side tier 2, but they don't have material control of the TSM jungle. And I wondered, after I saw what happened in this game, and I checked the stats. LCS regular season team statistics, wards per minute, Cloud9, second to last, only above Echo Fox. Control wards better, so they're fourth in control wards. Wards cleared, dead last by a mile. Now, these aren't Liquid's not great at this stuff either, right? But you can understand a little bit, because if you're constantly pressing forward into the enemy jungle, you want to clear more wards, right? You're not actually you're not setting down defensive vision. You're trying to be very aggressive and making sure they can't face check into you. But even the ward cleared numbers, dead last in visible wards cleared. Fourth from last, visible wards cleared. What is going on with this team? I don't know. They don't see anything. They never saw where Bjergsen was coming from. The TSM flanks won them this game, and now we're at the 2-1 series where TSM has life. Now we're on game 4, and again, looking at this draft, I am not sure why Svenskeren picked the Jarvan before the Rek'Sai. I don't know why he did that. And then you look at what is going on here. They've got Rise for Licorice. They have Lucian Braum, which is fine for Sneaky, but it's Sneaky in lane. You're really going to hang your hat on Sneaky getting a kill on Sven 2v2 in lane? Oh, I don't know about that. And then the coup de grace is Niski on Zed, and nothing against Niski's Zed, but you're going against Burger King, the Beardson. I just don't trust this matchup. This requires, you have to win all these matchups where you're just going to fall unbelievably behind against the Wombo of Cho'Gath, Galio. You've got Sven dealing out the late game DPS against a Lucian who just at a certain point, this is the opposite of the Sonaterra game where TSM just win by default. And I hate this, and I hate the phase rush too against Cho'Gath, right? Licorice has to be ahead. I would have loved at this point to see something like the Grasp rise that we've seen from Doinby, MVP of the LPL. Grasp into Rod of Ages, Righteous Glory, you build health, you get turret plates, Grasp go into Demolish, and you just get these turret plates in the top lane and you accelerate out of that lane. I would have loved to see that. I don't think the phase rush makes sense against Cho'Gath. So we're at 4 minutes in the game, and Svenskeren again got those double scuttles, but TSM smart. They worded out where his path was, just to make him useless, make him waste time. And they realized Acadian don't know if he can. I mean, Rek'Sai and Jarvan is actually a good matchup, but we just don't know if Acadian can beat Svenskeren. Let's just make him waste time and delay him. And we see the fruits of what happened, right? So Svenskeren, again, the onus is on him to make stuff happen. And instead, it's Broken Blade who roams down mid lane and is able to pick up first blood. He had Licorice constantly pressed against the turret. Like, why are you taking Phase Rush Rise if he's just going to be so afraid against the Cho'Gath, especially post 6, where the Cho'Gath can just eat him? Svenskeren goes mid, and this is like, he has to go mid because you have to get Niski ahead. If Niski's not ahead, the game is over. Instead, Broken Blade comes down, and that is an eat. Doesn't actually get it with a feast, but this is what TSM need to do in response. So at 11 minutes, now they just killed Niski, face checking this brush, vision control again, and this is turning quickly into a utter disaster for C9. I am not sure why they felt like fighting a Ocean Drake 3v4. They're just walking up to it. I again don't know why they're doing this. They're outnumbered. Ryze is in no position to do anything. And this is, like I said, just an utter disaster for C9. This game, I mean, okay, it's a blue side game. So we talk about blue side, red side. I still thought that C9 are better on blue side. But what is this draft? What is this? The Rek'Sai, like the early power, like C9 could have just taken the Rek'Sai for themselves. Again, blue side, you can pick whatever you want. The other interesting thing is, like, they're so terrified. Like, they're banning Liss, Akali, and Irelia. Like, you are on blue side. You have first pick, priority. Like, you could pick whoever you want. They go for Jarvan. They live up Rek'Sai. Very, very unsure about this draft. That led us into Game 5. Another draft from C9 that I'm scratching my head. Okay, so good job. You picked the Rek'Sai. Congratulations. But now you followed up the Rek'Sai with, you have an Ornn. Which, for the love, like, Game 4 you tried early game. You gave Sneaky an early game champion. Why can't Licorice get an early game champion? He is getting these absolute garbage matchups where he's taking tanks into carries. He's taking Ornn into this, turned into a Vlad from Broken Blade. Why can't Licorice get something? Very confused about the C9 blue side draft. You're in blue side. That should have given you a huge advantage. Now, having said that, Svenskeren actually played the Rek'Sai really well. Got off some pressure ganks where he actually got Rift Herald top lane, dropped so the TSM top turret is gone, got Licorice ahead. Then they rotate bot as a 5-man unit. This is what you want to do with Ornn, and they're able to get this Drake. I don't know. So Sneaky and Zeyzal are not tied to the hip, but they're close in lane. And I don't know what Sneaky is doing here, trying to 1v2 when Acadian is there. Like, he just gets separated from Zeyzal. Like, what is he doing? He needs to be with the Alistar. And instead, he's zoned out of this fight. He zones himself out of this fight. And, incredibly for C9, Zeyzal makes a god move and gets this massive knock-up. And they actually win the fight. Still went really well for C9. They get the 3v2 lead. They get the Drake. But could have been cleaner. Both Zeyzal and Smoothie had some huge pop-off plays in this where they just initiated for the team. This was not one of them. We're at 30 minutes in the game, and TSM are setting up this attempted death brush around Baron. They're a little bit behind, but they're not incredibly behind. And the actual scale, the scaling of Vlad versus Ornn, especially Kindred versus Rek'Sai, the Kindred is going to be so much more useful than the Rek'Sai. C9 see all of them here, and this is what I don't understand. You have two forms of long-range engage. You have the Alistar flashing and headbutt pulverize, or you have Ornn, who can initiate from like half a screen away. They choose option A, which is Alistar running into 5 members of TSM. He sees all of them. They have a control. They just placed this control ward. Zeyzal's going in. The Ornn horn just never comes out. Ornn horn, Ornn horn, Ornn horn, Ornn horn, Ornn horn, Ornn horn, Ornn, 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 Ornn. No Ornn. I don't understand. I don't know. Again, team fight execution from C9. This is something that should be something that they are very familiar with. This is the same roster outside mid lane. Again, like, this was not Niski's fault. The Niski Zed game even wasn't his fault. That's just not a Niski champion. Like, you can't just say that throw Jensen in here and they're better. Like, I don't understand why there's no priority on very strong blue side champions like Akali, like Aurelia, and I don't understand what's going on in these team fights. It just looks disjointed. And this is where the game really started turning for TSM. At 32 minutes, TSM have Baron now off that play. Very similar situation to what happened in Game 4, but look at the difference, right? The C9 flank is again coming from Zeyzal. Zeyzal's up here behind the Krugs. And Ornhorn, no Ornn. Zeyzal's already dead. Guys, Zeyzal's dead. By the time the Ornhorn is going to hit him, he's going to be dead. Like, right? He's dead. Dead before the Ornhorn comes out, before it hits anyone. I just don't understand what's going on in these plays. The other thing is, like, imagine someone with actual damage coming back here. Like the Akali that Bjergsen used to flank TSM. Imagine if Licorice had Akali. Licorice does know how to play Akali. I guarantee it. I just don't understand why they're not giving him any sort of priority. They have a Zeyzal coming in. There's no follow-up to this damage. And TSM, again, they win this fight too. Like the contrast between this TSM fight in Game 4 where they flanked and the C9 fight is huge. And by the time they do it, by the time Licorice finds R, there's just no damage anymore. And again, like, they don't have that burst damage against the Zilean that makes the Zilean think, like, who should I actually use my ult on? It's all very front to back team fighty. They just ult the person that's being DPS down, and you know who that's going to be. And it's just too late at this point. The scaling of the Kindred, Sneaky can't walk up against the Kindred. And that's the game. I said on the Smite Steel podcast, this felt like a C9 throw, and this is why. The draft mistakes, the misidentifying, or the inability to identify which are the OP champions for blue side blind picking, and not trusting Niski to execute on those champions, not trusting Licorice, not giving him any resources, the team fight mistakes. I think this was a C9 series that should have been over in 3 games, might have been over in 4, and just ultimately was a disaster that even went to 5 games at all. So, nothing to take away from TSM. I mean, they played these team fights magnificently. Broken Blade was a beast, but definitely for me, this series was a C9 throw. I'm really interested to see against TL. I need to see more from Acadian. I need to see more, especially in the early game. We can't keep falling behind and just saying, Svenskeren, you have the river, and we'll come back in 30 minutes. They can't do that. I need to see more from Acadian, and I need to see, him branch out and look at Broken Blade's lane. Look at Sven's lane. They need to be creative against Team Liquid. They need to go to another level, because this effort that allowed them to win as C9 beat themselves is not going to cut it on Saturday. Really hyped for the series. It's going to be a good one, the LCS. I hope it goes to Silver Scrapes. TSM and Team Liquid is going to be good. But that'll do it for this episode of the No FFs podcast. It's gone probably a little longer than I thought. But this is what we do. We try to go fast. We try to go hard. We find the point in every game when C9 should have FF. We'll catch you next time.